What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. It's June 26th here today and it's absolutely beautiful. On a day like this, I want to take you through and show you the progression of the property just to share my passion for growing food as naturally and organically as possible. Let's go! Typically, I would start things off in the 7-year-old food forest, but today I want to switch things up a little bit, bring it over to the side garden because the berry harvest is just going crazy. We're even getting gooseberries now, red ones, maybe ones you've never even seen before. Right now I'm in the front yard and we're on the north side of my house and we're growing a garden. Most people wouldn't, they'd be afraid to, but we know that the sun's going to be straight over top in the summer. We've tested it, we've watched where the sun sat, and we know we can grow food over here. So that's what we're doing. You know we're getting plenty of blueberries. Insane amount of blueberries for this harvest. These ones are nice and big, and we've eaten some ripe ones already, but they're slowly all ripening. This side garden is actually where we have all the best fruit too, to be honest with you. This apple tree, it's got some nice looking fruit on it there. It's a Macintosh. Just to my left here, we've got the red fleshed apple, which is doing beautifully. Number of apples on this one. Strawberries are all finished now for this season. They're ever-bearing, so they'll come again. And we've got the Marion berries, which are doing well. And boysenberries and tayberry. I'm not sure if this one's the tayberry or the boysenberry, but this thing's a monster. Setting up, it should be ripe soon, which is a lot of fun. And the tomatoes are doing great in here. You may have seen one as I walked in. There was one right in the front. But we fill these in any spaces we can, stick tomatoes in, a gap between sections, like I have blueberry here, tree here, and we'll just stick a tomato right in the center. This looks like one of those soldaki, one of my favorites. And we've pruned this one up to a central leader. We just need to stake it. I'm super behind on a lot of stuff this year, but I'm doing the best I can. There's a lot of tomatoes that I've squeezed in here. Like I said, I just need to go through and stake them. And what I do is I just pop off any suckers to grow to that single stem. We'll put the stake in and then just tie it to the stake. There's some ones that are done already, I'll show you those. But behind me, we're getting epic berry harvest. And I showed you some of the apples right in the beginning. And it's funny, because like I said, the apples in this side food forest are doing better than the main food forest, which I never would have guessed. But that's, I guess, one of the things I love about nature. It's nothing is ever promised to you. You could think that you're gonna get a great harvest, you've got everything perfect in line, and nature will throw you a curveball. And then you could think you're in a section that's gonna give you nothing and not productive, and it'll be just off the charts productive. So nothing is promised, but appreciate everything you do get. Having that appreciation is important because it helps you to feel grateful for your successes. I'm not neglecting my failures. I use those as lessons to learn more, but I'm also just very thankful for all the good things I do get. And let me take you in and show you these massive amount of black Cap Raspberries. Awesome harvest this year. Amidst all those black Cap Raspberries, there's an Asian pear tree in there. I'll show you that closer. And we've also put a new cherry tree in this year. This one we put in from bare root. At the same time, we put the new food forest in, and that'll help pollinate our Bing in the future and just give us bigger harvests. We've also got a number of blueberries growing right around the black Cap Raspberries. You can see the amount of growth this blueberries put out this year. This one's a little later to fruit, but we should still be getting a nice harvest from it. And the black caps, these are one of my favorite tasting berries. So we let them kind of go a little crazy this year. And they're also so productive. Over there. So I make sure I get a lot of great tasting berries from these ones. As you can see in this section here, you don't need a lot of space to grow a lot of food, especially berries, as long as you use the right pruning method. I talked about that in a previous video, but you can see here, absolutely loaded. And down here, we've got a gooseberry. This is the Hinamaki red. You can see that nice red color. And when the gooseberries are ready, they'll come off the plant very easily. You can see that nice red color. So gooseberries are probably something you've never heard before. If you want to see a video about them, specifically these, let me know. I'd love to do one, because I've got all different varieties throughout the property too. You won't find that in a store. If I don't get out of this side garden, I'm going to be here for hours and I'll probably end up with a stomachache from eating too many berries. So let me take you into the food forest, the 7-year-old one, and show you the progression on that. Just to give you an overview of the location, this is the side garden here, and you could see straight back there, those tall trees in the back, that's a 7-year-old food forest. Let's get back there. Throughout the years, I've always called this a food forest, but I may have thrown that term around lightly. This year, it truly is a forest. All food too. Everything in here has a function. Everything has a purpose. Along the fence line, We've got all different kinds of flowers, bringing in the pollinators. We've got cucumbers. We've got tomatoes that came up from seed. We've got grapes. We've got hazelnuts. Anything you can think of, anything we could probably grow around here, we've got it in. One thing you'll notice with the food forest and a lot of the property is something I'm not good at is taking things out. I usually overcrowd and plant things a lot because, I don't know, I just love growing things. This section here though, you can see I put this new tree in. This is a thundercloud. This is a beautiful tree. We've got it right by the front. Hopefully it'll be a nice display, kind of edible landscaping tree. And I had to film for a second over here so I could stop and grab a couple more black caps because these are just one of my favorite. And here is a section I've got to cut back a little bit. We've got this grape trying to take over a new beach plum. This is a Jersey beach plum, a local plum tree. So we're hoping for big things out of this in the future because at this property, at this location, we've always had an issue with getting plums. A lot of that reason is the curculio, a bug I talked about in the past that attacks almost all of our fruit trees. And it doesn't actually eat the fruit, it lays eggs in it, which makes it a little harder to kind of keep it away. Now, we're in the 7-year-old food forest. As you can see, in this section, it almost looks like, acreage. It almost looks huge in here. And it's a pretty small location, not as big as you would think. The reason it looks so big is because there's so much in it. It's funny how that works. Sometimes when there's a lot in it, it looks even smaller, but when there's so much in it, it makes it look even bigger. Kind of a, I don't know, a mind thing, but still funny. Here we've got grapes. We have the Catawba right here and the Niagara. You'll notice I cut a lot of the branching down because we had an issue. We got a pretty wet spring. As a result of that, we've got powdery mildew on the Catawba. And the Catawba is more susceptible to these fungus issues. I planted this years ago not knowing that. In the future, like the new ones I have, I planted ones that aren't susceptible as much to brown rot and any kind of fungus issues like we have bad in New Jersey. So that's just kind of a live and you learn thing. Here we've got the Niagara. These don't get hit with the powdery mildew as bad, so they're doing all right. But it's just a learning process. Not every year you're gonna get fruit from everything you plant. You have to know that. But as long as you plant a diverse number of things, every year you should be getting good harvest from something. Like I said many times, this is our year for berries. And we're still getting apples in the side garden. I have some ideas of why we're getting the apples over there and why they're not producing as much in here and why we're getting attacked worse. That's not something I'm definite on, so I don't want to share yet, but I will in the future. Look at this nectarine, or what's supposed to be a nectarine in here. Huge tree. I'm right now hanging out in the shade in a beautiful food forest. I just love being out here. I can spend all day out here. I haven't had the time as much recently, and the food forest has taken a little bit of a hit, but since this is a system that is almost self-sustaining and self-supporting, and these are mostly all perennials, if I'm not here for a little while, that's not too big of a deal. Let me show you some of these hazelnuts though. We're gonna be getting harvest from this one. This hazelnut tree is just so deceptive. I did it last year too, where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get any nuts this year. And then I'm like, you know what, maybe I will. And then I'm like, nope, not getting any. And then I go through today and I see a number of locations where we just got beautiful fruit sets. I've got more on this side. And once I see a couple, I know that there's a good amount. Because last year, I saw a few and I only thought we were gonna get a few. Then they all just were just showing up on the ground. I came out here and the floor was littered with them. So hopefully that happens again. At my feet, we've got the flowers. Struggling a little bit because, like I said, we had a wet spring, but now it's been really dry. We've had a couple weeks of real dry weather. Hopefully we'll get some rain on Thursday. The persimmon is doing better than it ever has. Looking like one of our better trees in the food forest. Here it looks like we've got another mulberry coming up from seed. We're gonna rip that out. They just come up like absolute weeds. And the pear's doing great. All of our pears are doing great. That's one of the main things that the curculio doesn't really go after. It does lay eggs in the pear, but I think the fruit, the skin is just so thick that it just discourages it. I'd rather go for some of our easier to get into peaches and plums. Here's a tomato we transplanted out, doing well. It just needs to be staked up. Cilantro all going to seed. We'll allow this cilantro to go to seed because one thing, it's got that like umbrella kind of flower where it's shaped like an umbrella, which is great for bringing in pollinators and insectivores, which are insects that attack other insects. So we'll allow it for that, but also these are just gonna fall and seed and produce another crop of cilantro for us. On the ground, we've always got fresh cilantro coming up because the previous ones basically just seeded themselves. That's self-sustaining, that's self-replicating. Echinacea is not getting that much light, but it'll still flower and bring in the pollinators. Also just be a form of beauty. That's one thing that's often underestimated in a garden. Right now I'm in the center of the food forest and I'm surrounded by food. It's a great place to be. Surrounded by trees and all different kinds of life. It feels safe and it feels comforting. It's great to know anything I need, it's at a hand's reach. Jeff Lawton says it, you could solve all the world's problems in a garden. And that's one of my favorite sayings. Here I've got a Moonglow pear, doing excellent. This thing was a great producer for us last year and it's looking like it will be again. I love just coming out here and checking the fruit and seeing how it's producing. I said this is a perennial food forest, but we still stick annuals in. We love growing things like tomatoes and peppers, all different kinds of herbs, anywhere we can fit it. Right here I put a new fruit tree in. This is a new apple tree, a good variety. This is the Honeycrisp, and below it we've got a borage. This is a great companion plant. A nice one to put around your tomatoes, and it's a beautiful flower to bring in pollinators, but also just a great all-around companion. Here we've got all different kinds of tomatoes, planted amongst some of the brassicas that are finishing up. Tomatoes are doing pretty well. They look healthy, they've got good color. We've pruned them, we're staking them. And this is a section that doesn't get a lot of direct sunlight, but we're still gonna produce in it. Because I wanna encourage you guys to, no matter where you are, the smallest space you have or no light, do what you can to try to plant something. You've got nothing to lose if you're not growing anything there right now. And we've got some kale too. That's one of our favorite greens. We eat that usually instead of lettuce. Amongst the tomatoes, we have different kinds of basil planted and other kinds of companion plants too. And along the fence line, you know we have some cucumbers and stuff. They're further behind than last year, but we're still growing them and hoping for a good harvest coming up soon. We've also got blackberries, and those things are loaded. In a previous video, I showed you just how to prune them, but this one we didn't prune yet. When it comes to the blackberries, I say about 4 to 5 feet tall in height. I'll prune that, take it down. That'll encourage all that lateral growth, and you can see that's where all the fruit is. We'll do the same thing for these two. That's how easy it is to prune your blackberries to get a bigger harvest. Right here is the first tomato that we actually transplanted of the year. It's doing well, it's got small tomatoes on it. Not long, the tomato harvest is gonna be coming in. It's tough to beat Jersey tomatoes, it really is. If you've never had one, I'm telling you, you're missing out. Right here we've got another young cherry tree that I put in about 2 years ago. This is also gonna help pollinate our Bing, get that cherry harvest to the next level. I talked about the horseradish, this is it. But I could sit in here for hours and show you guys things. I want to take you to the new food forest, because if you just started a food forest, you're going to be in the same scenario as me. Watching this video, you're probably thinking, wow, James, you got a lot going on. But I'll tell you, it didn't all happen in a year. Go back 5 or 6 years in the video and you'll see I had a small garden. Every year I added a little more and it accumulated and I learned and it grew and it grew. So I want to encourage you guys, start small. I often say the best gardeners are the ones that have a small section, because they have to be faithful and they have to do the most they can with that small area. They get to hone in and just improve their skills. So if your section's small, you could be easily becoming a better gardener very quick. And then every year, add more. Like I said, everything accumulates. Let me take you to the new food forest. We're adding every year and it'll soon accumulate into a forest like this. Right now, I'm in the new food forest. A couple months ago, this was all grass. We had a number of big trees here that were just shading out this whole section, but we decided to take those down and add in a bunch of fruit trees, all from bare root, and they're doing great. Even this pear tree in the back that had never produced for us now is producing and has great fruit on it because we opened up the light. Right here is a pear tree that had never produced for us, but we opened up the light, we took care of it, and now it's doing great. I just need to make sure I go through and pull out these suckers, because those are just pulling growth and hormones from the tree. Right here we've got a peach tree that I just put in. I put this one in from bare root, you guys saw it. And when I put these peach trees in, I went a little extreme on the pruning. You guys may have gotten a little scared, but look what happened. An insane amount of growth now. Because when I pruned it, the tree focused on producing roots. After it produced big healthy roots, now it's all about the leaves. So it's growth, really healthy. Here too, we've got the strawberries. Doing real well. They're sending out all the runners. This is gonna be a nice, thick, matted section. Young apple tree. We've got a tomato plant right here, doing nicely, slowly adjusting, but doing okay. We've got peppers. Anywhere we can grow stuff, we stick it in. This was a tomato from seed that just came up on its own. I don't even know what variety it is, but it'll be fun to find out. Behind me here, I have a section that just needs to be weeded and wood chipped a little bit, but I'll get that done as I have time. And in this front section, I told you all that I was gonna leave a spot where we can grow annuals, because I sure do grow a lot of perennials, but I still want to grow some annuals. I put some in already. We've got some beans that are growing real well, a row of zucchini, As this fills in, the zucchini will basically fill the gap between those two, and we'll have the beans growing up on this side and on the back. Cucumbers along the fence line, like we always do. Grapes are a little slow to start, but they're doing okay. They were bare root. And we've also got a number of tomatoes, 2 rows of tomatoes, basils in the back, and peppers and eggplants here too. I believe these beans I have planted here are the dragon tongue beans. If you've never seen those, they're one of the coolest looking beans, but they also taste delicious. So I have a lot of fun growing those. Strawberries will again mat out that row. More tomatoes, looking very healthy. I haven't fertilized them at all since I planted them. I barely even watered them. When it comes to tomatoes, the way you water them can really affect the way they grow. So I have wood chips down here. Because of that, thick layer wood chips, I know I'm gonna retain a good amount of moisture, so I rarely have to water. I haven't watered these tomatoes since I planted them. But if I dug and the ground was dry, I would water. But the thing is, when you do water them, you wanna give a nice deep watering, say maybe once a week. You don't wanna come out here and just water the top layer, the surface layer of the tomatoes, or you're just gonna encourage surface roots. You wanna have a nice deep watering so that the roots will go down and get that water that's all being drawn down by gravity. Over here, we've got a lot of kale. We're eating on this. We're sharing with the bugs, they're eating a little bit too, but that just lets us know that it's completely organic and natural. The kales, I mentioned it, we don't eat much lettuce. We eat the kale instead. And some cabbages, getting bit by bugs a little bit, but we're still hoping to get a couple cabbages out of that. More tomatoes with little baby tomatoes on them. More fruit trees, more peppers. Like I said, we grow a lot in a little space. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I make these videos for you. I enjoy doing it, but ultimately, the reason I produce these is so you guys can get enjoyment, encouragement, and hopefully learn something from it. But if there's something specific you want to see, maybe something I haven't covered, or maybe something I need to cover in more detail, just let me know. Hit that subscribe button though, and hit the like button. Don't forget to ring the notification bell, because that truly helps our channel. Oh yeah, don't forget to check us out on Steam It too. We love posting on there. Jace Prigioni, it's out.